like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.
Okay, so this is going to be a wild one, I think. You know how much you love these legal dramas, especially when they involve a big name like Diddy?
Oh, absolutely.
This one's a real doozy, and we've got a ton of sources here, like that People magazine article you sent about Sean Diddy Combs and all his legal troubles. And now there's this whole new twist with this Brendan Paul guy, his alleged associate.
Yeah.
So, like, what's the deal with all that? That's what we're going to try to figure out in this deep dive. How do these cases all connect? What does it mean for Diddy? And what's going to happen next?
Yeah. It's interesting because this isn't just one legal battle. It's like this whole web of different cases all tangled up together.
Okay, so let's untangle this web then. Where do we even start?
Well, I think the best place to start is with Brendan Paul.
Okay, yeah, Brendan Paul. Yeah. So from what I've read, he was arrested back in March for possession of cocaine and marijuana.
Right.
Then he agreed to a plea deal and got into this diversion program. For those of us who aren't lawyers, can you explain what a diversion program is?
Sure. So basically, it's like a second chance. It allows someone to avoid a conviction if they complete certain requirements, like community service or drug treatment.
Oh, okay. I see. And Paul did complete the program, right?
Yeah, he did. And just this week, all the charges against him were dropped.
Wow, so he's totally off the hook.
Well, for those charges, yes. But his story doesn't end there.
What else is there?
Well, he's also been accused of being Diddy's mule for drugs and guns.
Hold on, a mule? What does that even mean?
Basically, it means he was transporting illegal stuff for Diddy. At least that's what Diddy's former producer Rodney Little Rod Jones is claiming in a lawsuit he filed.
So this Paul guy was running drugs and guns for Diddy. That's a pretty serious accusation.
It is. And it all happened right around the same time that Diddy himself was facing those sex trafficking allegations, remember?
Right, that's right. March was a crazy month for both of them. In the middle of all those accusations, authorities raided Diddy's homes in Miami and Los Angeles. They were really taking those accusations seriously.
Absolutely. They were sending a clear message that this wasn't just some casual inquiry.
Yeah, definitely. But let's go back to Paul for a second. I'm still a little confused about his case. You said all the charges were dropped, but wasn't there another charge in April?
Yeah, you're right. It's important to distinguish between these different legal issues. So the initial drug possession charges were dismissed because he completed that diversion program.
Okay.
But then he was hit with another felony cocaine possession charge in April. That one's still pending.
Oh, wow. So even though he's off the hook for the first charges, he's still in trouble with this second one.
Exactly. And this second charge is actually directly tied to the accusations against Diddy.
Oh, I see. So this is where the two cases really start to connect.
Right. This second charge is related to those alleged federal sex crimes that Diddy's involved in.
Okay, so this is getting complicated fast. But it sounds like we need to shift gears now and focus on Diddy's legal situation. Things really took a turn for him in September with that grand jury indictment, right?
Oh, yeah, that's right. In September, a grand jury indicted Diddy on charges of sex trafficking, racketeering, and transportation to engage in prostitution.
Whoa, those are some serious charges.
They are. And just to be clear, racketeering basically means engaging in organized crime.
The mob stuff.
Kind of. It means using illegal activities to generate income. So it's not just about individual acts. It suggests a pattern of criminal behavior.
Oh, wow. That definitely paints a different picture. And these accusations could actually put Diddy away for decades.
Absolutely. And to make matters worse, he's been denied bail 3 times.
3 times.
He's been in jail since his arrest, waiting for his trial, which is scheduled for May 2025.
So the court's not taking any chances with him. It sounds like they consider him a flight risk and the accusations to be very credible.
It definitely seems that way.
But hold on a second. Didn't Diddy publicly deny all these accusations back in December 2023? I think it was in that People magazine article we talked about.
Yeah, it did. That was a very strategic move by his team.
What do you mean?
Well, by publicly and forcefully denying the allegations, they're trying to control the narrative and influence public opinion. It's all about damage control.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
But do you think that actually helps his case legally?
It's hard to say. From a legal standpoint, a public denial might not carry much weight in court. The evidence and legal arguments are what really matter.
Right.
But it could definitely play a role in influencing potential jurors and shaping how the public perceives Diddy and his guilt or innocence.
It's such a delicate balance trying to defend yourself publicly without jeopardizing your legal case.
It is. It'll be interesting to see how that denial plays out in the long run.
Yeah, for sure. But okay, let's circle back to Brendan Paul for a minute. Remember how his charges for that initial drug possession arrest were dropped?
I do.
Does that have any impact on Diddy's case? Especially with those allegations that Paul was his mule.
That's a great question, and it's something a lot of people are wondering about. On the surface, you might think it would weaken the prosecution's case against Diddy.
Right. If Paul was supposed to be a key witness or connected to those alleged activities.
Exactly. But it's important to remember that, legally speaking, Paul's case and Diddy's case are separate. The dismissal of Paul's drug charges doesn't automatically mean Diddy's innocent or that the other evidence against him is invalid.
Okay, so even if Paul's not in trouble anymore for those specific drug offenses, that doesn't mean Diddy's off the hook. They could still have other evidence against him.
Exactly. The prosecution might argue that Paul's role was just one small piece of a much larger puzzle, and that they have enough evidence to go after Diddy regardless of Paul's involvement.
Okay, so it's not as simple as it seems. But wouldn't you say that having Paul's case dismissed at least casts some doubt on the accusations against Diddy, even if it's just in the public eye?
Absolutely. I think it's bound to create a perception, especially among people who aren't following all the legal details, that maybe the case against Diddy isn't as strong as it seemed.
It's like a PR win for Diddy, even if it doesn't directly affect the legal proceedings.
Exactly. And that kind of public perception can be very powerful.
Definitely. So you got this really interesting situation. Paul's legal troubles seem to be over for now, but Diddy's facing this mountain of accusations and a trial that's still months away.
It's like a legal thriller unfolding in real time.
Exactly. So where do we go from here?
Well, I think the next step is to take a closer look at the specific accusations against Diddy and what his legal team might do to defend him.
Okay, so that's where we'll pick up in part 2 of this deep dive.
Welcome back. So we're picking up our deep dive into this crazy legal situation with Sean Diddy Combs. As we were talking about before, he's facing some pretty heavy accusations.
Yeah, it's really wild how fast things went downhill for him. 1 minute, he's this music mogul. And the next, he's facing charges that could land him in prison for decades.
I know, it's crazy. And the indictment, it paints this picture of this systematic operation where women were allegedly manipulated, exploited, forced into these situations for over a decade.
A decade? Wow. That's a really long time. So we're not talking about just like 1 or 2 isolated incidents.
Nope. The accusations suggest a pattern of abuse and coercion. And it adds another layer to the legal proceedings because it strikes at the core of Diddy's public image.
Yeah, his whole career has been built on charisma, this larger-than-life persona. And these accusations really challenge that.
They do.
How much do you think this whole thing is going to impact Diddy's legacy? Regardless of the outcome. You know what I mean?
I think the impact's going to be huge. Honestly, I think his reputation's already taken a hit. Whether he's found guilty or not, these accusations are going to stick with him. The court of public opinion can be just as powerful as a court of law.
Yeah, that's true. Even if he's acquitted, it's not like people are just going to forget about all this.
Right. Exactly.
So what kind of defense strategy do you think his legal team's going to use? I mean, these are some serious accusations.
Well, based on what we know about these kinds of cases, I'm guessing they're going to focus on discrediting the accusers and pointing out any inconsistencies in their stories.
Classic strategy.
Yeah, and they'll probably try to emphasize the lack of physical evidence, too.
Yeah. So basically try to create doubt in the minds of a jury.
Exactly.
But how effective do you think that'll be in this case? I mean, these accusations are really serious.
It's tough to say. It really depends on the strength of the prosecution's case and how believable the accusers are. But remember, Diddy has a lot of money. He can afford the best lawyers, so they're going to fight hard.
It's like a David and Goliath situation, but in a courtroom.
Yeah, you could say that.
The prosecution's really going to need to bring their A game if they want to get a conviction.
They will, but this case, it has implications beyond just Diddy.
What do you mean?
Well, this could have repercussions for the entire music industry.
Oh, wow. So you think this could be a turning point for the industry? Like the #MeToo movement in Hollywood?
It's possible.
Yeah.
This case has definitely brought these issues to the forefront of public discussion. And the outcome, whether Diddy's convicted, acquitted, or even if there's a plea deal, it's going to send a message.
Okay, but what kind of message? Will we actually see real change? Or is it just going to be a lot of talk with no action?
Well, I think we'll see both. There's definitely a heightened awareness of these issues now, and that's a good thing. But if Diddy's found guilty, I think there will be concrete changes, like record labels implementing stricter codes of conduct, protecting artists, especially women.
Yeah, I can see that happening.
Right.
But don't you think that would require a huge cultural shift within the industry? I mean, the music industry doesn't exactly have a reputation for being squeaky clean.
You're not wrong. They've been criticized for a long time for tolerating and even celebrating behavior that would be unacceptable in other professions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So do you really think this one case can change all that?
I think it could be a catalyst. It's definitely shining a light on the problem and forcing people to confront it. And it's raising the stakes. If Diddy, with all his wealth and influence, can be held accountable, it sets a precedent.
Yeah, that's true. It sends a message that nobody's above the law.
Exactly.
But okay, let's flip the script for a second. What if Diddy's acquitted? What happens then? Does everything just go back to normal like nothing ever happened?
I don't think so. I mean, the public's already formed opinions, and there's been damage to his reputation. Even if he's cleared of all the charges, I think his career's going to be affected.
So even if he wins in court, he still loses in the court of public opinion.
Yeah, I think that's a real possibility. This case has really shown how important public perception is. It's a reminder that actions have consequences.
It's a cautionary tale for anyone in a position of power.
Absolutely. It's not just about Diddy. This is about sending a message that these types of behaviors aren't going to be tolerated, no matter who you are or how much money you have.
It's about accountability and transparency.
Exactly. And it's not just the music industry either. This is a lesson for all of us.
What do you mean?
I mean, we all have a responsibility to speak up against injustice and create a culture of respect and accountability in every part of our lives.
Wow, that's powerful. So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, what's the one big takeaway you want our listeners to remember? We'll come back to the final part of our deep dive into Sean Diddy Combs and this whole legal saga. It's been quite a ride, hasn't it?
It really has.
We started off trying to figure out how Diddy's case connected to those charges against Brennan Paul that ended up getting dropped. Remember?
Yeah.
Then we talked about those accusations against Diddy and how serious they are and what they could mean for his legacy and the whole music industry.
Right.
So now I guess it's time to look ahead. What are the long-term implications of this whole thing, no matter what happens?
That's the big question, isn't it?
This whole thing feels like a watershed moment. You know, it's making us face some uncomfortable truths about the music industry and how we hold these powerful people accountable.
I agree. This case has definitely sparked a conversation, that's for sure.
Yeah, and a much-needed conversation.
Absolutely. It's about power dynamics, the treatment of women, and our responsibility to speak up when we see injustice. It could be the music industry's own #MeToo moment.
That's a powerful thought.
Yeah.
But will it actually lead to real change? Or is it all just talk?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I think we'll see both. I really do.
How so?
Well, the fact that we're even talking about this is a good sign. The awareness is there. But I also think there's potential for more concrete changes. Like if Diddy's convicted, it could inspire other victims to come forward. We might even see record labels implementing stricter rules, like mandatory training on harassment prevention, creating safer spaces for artists, especially women.
Yeah, I can see that. But the music industry has a long history of sweeping these kinds of issues under the rug. You know, do you really think this one case can change that culture?
It's a tough question. Change is hard, especially in an industry that values profit and image so much. But I do think this case has the power to be a catalyst.
In what way?
Well, it's put a spotlight on the problem, and it's forced people to confront it. It's raised the stakes. If Diddy, with all his money and influence, can be held accountable, it sends a message that no one is untouchable.
Okay, but let's be real for a second. What if he's acquitted? What happens then? Does everything just go back to normal, like it never happened?
I don't think so. The public has already formed opinions. And Diddy's reputation has taken a hit. Even if he's cleared of all the charges, it's going to be a long road back for him.
So even if he wins in court, he might still lose in the court of public opinion.
Exactly. This whole case has really shown just how powerful public perception is. Actions have consequences.
It's a cautionary tale for sure.
Absolutely. It's not just about Diddy, though. This goes beyond the music industry.
How so?
It's about all of us. It's a reminder that we all have a responsibility to stand up against injustice and create a culture of respect and accountability in every area of our lives.
That's a great point. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one big takeaway you want our listeners to remember?
I think the main takeaway is that this case is bigger than just Sean Diddy Combs. It's about a much bigger societal problem that we need to address head on.
What do you mean?
It's a call to action for all of us to be more aware, to speak up against injustice, and demand accountability from those in power.
I couldn't have said it better myself. This case is a wake-up call. We all have a role to play in creating a more just and equitable world.
I agree.
And for our listeners who want to keep up with this story, you can follow us on social media for all the latest updates.
Yeah, definitely do that.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, stay curious and keep asking those tough questions.
Sound alarm. I'm coming up. We'll have a ball. I'm sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made up.